Hi everyone, welcome to Glow with Grace. I wanted to do my first video today on NVC, nonviolent communication. I said at the beginning of these videos that I wanted to talk about this, and I've been a little bit nervous about actually starting to speak about it because I am by no means an NVC professional. I've never even done any courses in NVC. I've just read quite a few books on NVC and I'm really interested in it, and I use it for self-inquiry myself. And people have been expressing that they wanted to hear more about this, so that's what I'm going to aim to do today, is to give a kind of overview of how I use it for self-inquiry, giving 4 different examples. So for those of you who aren't familiar, this is the kind of original nonviolent communication text. This is the 2nd edition though. I don't actually know when the 1st edition was from, but I think it was like maybe back in the 80s or 90s or something. And it's by Marshall Rosenberg. And I was first introduced to this book 2003 or something, when I was on a retreat, and my friend lent it to me and I started to read it and just completely resonated with me. I loved it. So yeah, there's really amazing stories in here if you want to check it out. We actually sell this book, I think, Nonviolent Communication. I just love it so much. And there's lots of other NVC books, like this one, Being Genuine by Thomas Dansenberg. It's a French book that someone translated into English, and it's also really good. I really love this one. And there's tons of them, little booklets and stuff. So I want to give you my interpretation of NVC, the way that I use it, which isn't necessarily like strict NVC. For example, in NVC there's a lot of talk about needs, and I kind of have an allergic reaction to the word need. And maybe you'll see why, or maybe that won't resonate for you. I'm sure there's NVC people watching this saying, but you have to use the word need. Yeah, it doesn't fit for me. I use want instead. Yeah, so let's get going. Alright, so these are the 4 steps that you go through in making up a kind of NVC dialogue or self-inquiry or whatever it is. There's these 4 kind of steps you go through. So the first thing is you make an observation. When I see or hear blah 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 blah, and then the next thing is you express how you feel about that. So I feel blah 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 blah, your feelings. And then the next thing in standard NVC would be you express your needs. As I said, that doesn't really resonate for me. I use the word want instead of because I need. So I say because I want blah 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 blah. And then the last thing that you do is you, it's kind of like a request, the last thing. And it isn't always there. And it can be to yourself, it could be to someone who you're speaking to. This one's a bit more kind of vague. But it often comes out as, would you consider blah, 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 or would I consider blah, 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 blah. So that's a kind of overview. So let's try to do an example of what that might look like. So I was thinking of this example of, imagine there's some people working together, and one of the people keeps being really rude about another one of them. And somebody asks the first person, why are you constantly being rude to her? Now, in terms of self-inquiry, we can go and explore what that might look like. On the surface, perhaps the person might give some flippant remark, or, oh, because she's so annoying or something. And this, to me, is where the self-inquiry really comes in. If you give yourself the time and the space to go and explore this, you might find a very different answer. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so our co-worker friend is doing some self-inquiry, and this is what she comes up with. So number 1, this is the observation. When I see Rick praising Dina. Number 2, I feel angry and sad. 3, because I want appreciation, respect, inclusion. Number 4, am I willing to seek appreciation elsewhere or change jobs? Okay, so number 1, the observation, when I see Rick praising Dina. 2, the feelings, I feel angry and sad. 3, what she wants, because I want appreciation, respect, inclusion. Number 4, am I willing to seek appreciation elsewhere or change jobs? So this person has really got into the root of what this means for her. You know, she may have given a flippant remark to another coworker, oh, because Dina's so annoying or whatever. But if she actually goes into this for herself, maybe in private time is probably the best idea. I find it easiest to do it that way. She can really get into the root of this and realize, well, actually, it's because Rick's always praising her, and I don't feel like I get appreciation in that way. And that's what I want. I want appreciation, and I want respect and inclusion. So by going through this, this person can get to that root cause of what's really going on for her, why she keeps showing up as being impolite to Dina. And she has a question there to ask herself. This is the kind of request in this situation. Am I willing to seek appreciation elsewhere or change jobs? And all kinds of questions could come out of that, you know. Why am I trying to seek appreciation from Rick? And what does that mean? And where else could I get it from? And what would I do if I changed jobs? You know, this, as I said, this whole kind of self-inquiry tool that I find really amazing. Okay, so the words that we were using to describe the feelings and wants or needs of the person in that example, there were specific words that I chose from a list that you can find on the main website for nonviolent communication, which is cnvc.org, which stands for the Center of Nonviolent Communication.org. And they have really great lists on there. I would really recommend looking this up. You can even, you know, just put in Google NVC, list of feelings, list of needs, and there's really useful lists on there. Because what can happen often when people start to use this especially is that they may use words to describe their feelings and wants or needs which actually are really loaded and carry kind of judgmental meanings, or they may have a kind of manipulative energy behind them. So if you want to look at a list of kind of approved NVC words, you could go and look at those. I find them really useful to express what I'm feeling in a way that doesn't have that kind of violent energy behind it, potentially. Words that are really kind of gentle and neutral, but express what you want to say. Hope that makes sense. And I also wanted to say that in my experience, conversationally, if and when you start to use NVC, it can feel really clumsy. That was really what I experienced when I first started back in 2003 or whatever it was, to be interested in this. And I was going through these 4 steps all the time: my observation, my feelings, my needs, my request. The person who I was with at that time, he said, "You're like a robot. I can't live with you. I can't speak to you like this," you know, because I was really kind of mechanically going through everything, every single conversation in that way. So just be aware of that, you know, that it might sound really strange to other people. They might get irritated by the way you're speaking if you're trying to speak to others like this. Again, I find it most useful in my experience as a tool of self-inquiry. So let's take a look at our next example. This one is going to be about a parent who comes home and is screaming suddenly at their child. What is going on? All right, so this is more of a kind of dialogue situation, this example. So this parent is coming home and seeing mess all over the house, and suddenly they find that they're screaming at their child about this situation. What is going on? So here's what they managed to say with their NVC communication. When I see your clothes on the floor and empty glasses on the table, I feel furious and frustrated because I want order, respect, and support. Would you consider speaking with me about this situation so we can find a solution that works for both of us? So the request here could have been many different things. You know, I just made this up as an example. The parent might have asked, would you be willing for us to tidy this up together? Would you tell me uh, what you feel about this situation. You know, there's many different things that you could ask. There's no right or wrong request here. What is beautiful to me is that this parent is, you know, rather than carrying on the like screaming rampage that can so often happen between parents and children, they have, you know, kind of taken a deep breath and gone into this NVC kind of route instead, to say, okay, so this is a situation, this is what I observe, this is how I feel about it, and this is what I want. And would you consider speaking to me about this? What I really love in recent years that I've realized about NVC is that it's all about coming back to what the speaker wants. So if you see there in number 3, because I want order, respect, and support, that's the bottom line. That's what that person is looking for. That's why they're erupting. Not because of that particular piece of clothing on the floor, not because of that particular glass, not because it's, you know, Tuesday or whatever. It's because underlying everything, that's what they want: order, respect, and support. So I hope those couple of examples made some sense and helped you. One was kind of a self-inquiry kind of angle, and one was more kind of conversational example. Now what I want to do is give a couple of examples with like really horrible NVC communication. And one of them is again going to be conversational, and one's going to be more inward, a kind of self-inquiry thing. We're going to go with the conversational one first. So let's have a look at that. This one is about a wife who is upset with her husband because he's late again. Okay, so here we go. This is going to be the horrible example of trying to speak NVC as the wife who is annoyed with her husband who's late again. And then we're going to do the kind of fix after this. So, okay, here we go, the horrible version. When I see you, as always, arriving 30 minutes late like a loser, I feel like I'm going to smack you in the face because it's obvious you don't love me. Do you even have a watch? Oh, ow, right? Yeah, we had the 4 little steps in there, but I don't know about you, but that didn't feel very non-violent to me. So there's a lot of ways to trip up when you're trying to put together NVC conversations. It's really common in the beginning that people fill these kind of 4 steps up with, you know, judgmental words, bitter tones, violent words, and primarily what I tend to see is the main issue is, as I was saying a little bit earlier, not focusing on what the speaker truly wants. You know, number 3, what is it that you truly want? What's the bottom line? Why are you behaving like this? So in this example, you can see the wife saying, because it's obvious you don't love me. So, you know, that's really not focusing at all clearly on the own speaker's wants. So what could she be saying there? It could be something, as an example, because I want love, consideration, and respect, rather than because it's obvious you don't love me, you know, so because I want. So let's do an entire fix of this. Let's come back and do a fix. Alright, here's my version of a fix for this situation, to put it into more NVC-like communication. So when you arrive 30 minutes later than we agreed, I feel sad and angry because I want love, consideration, and respect. Would you consider letting me know if you're running late? So do you see the difference there? Whereas in the first one, there was a very kind of accusational, judgmental, angry energy in the first sentence. When I see you as always arriving 30 minutes later, like a loser, you know, this really kind of painful communication. In this one, we have just a simple observation. When you arrive 30 minutes later than we agreed, guess what happened? I feel sad and angry, rather than I feel like I'm going to smack you in the face or whatever it was. This is her feelings. I feel sad and angry. That's her truth. Because, bottom line, this is what she wants. She wants love, consideration, and respect. And here's her request. Would you consider letting me know if you're running late? So I hope that's brought some clarity there to, ways that we can kind of clear up the words and the communication with NVC. All right, I'm going to do one more example. I hope these are helping you. This is going to be another horrible example. So we're going to do a self-inquiry thread right here with the horrible example first and then hopefully a fix. So the first one is going to be the horrible example of a man feeling really panicky because somebody just spoke to him in a really gruff voice. Alright, so here's the horrible example of using NVC for self-inquiry. So this guy's saying to himself, when he uses that nasty attitude with me, I feel that he's trying to control everything because he wouldn't speak to me like that otherwise. I'm going to trip him over next opportunity I get. Okay, so we see examples here again of kind of strange uses of the NVC structure with words that wouldn't usually be recommended or supported in NVC kind of communication. So you can see the judgmental kind of thing there in the first sentence when he uses that nasty attitude with me. And then in the second sentence there, I feel that, blah, blah, blah. That's a sentence structure that you really want to try to avoid if you're attempting to do kind of standard NVC. I feel that, blah, 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 is not necessarily usually going into your own stuff. So you're not expressing, I feel sad, or I feel angry, or I feel whatever. You're saying, I feel that he is trying to control everything. You're talking about the other person rather than yourself. And then the same kind of thing in number 3 there, obviously, as well. Because he wouldn't speak to me like that otherwise. This person is not talking about himself, he's talking about the other person, and he's making huge suppositions about what the other person would or wouldn't do in this kind of victim role thing, not focusing on the self. Alright, so this is going to be our final still here for the examples. This is the fix that I'm offering for this man who's feeling panicky because somebody spoke to him in a gruff voice. So when he speaks to me that way, I feel nervous and lonely because I want consideration, security, and acceptance. Am I willing to speak to him about my concerns? So again, that last request could have been anything, and I feel what's really important here is for the person to truly go deeply into the real truth. So, to actually get the genuine answers for yourself about I feel blah, 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 and because I want blah, blah, blah. I feel like it's a really good idea to take time away from everyone and to go into this deeply by yourself. Because at first, you might come up with something and think, oh, yeah, that sounds right. And then actually, it's not really the answer, the kind of deepest level of the answer. So here, the guy could maybe go into something about, oh, it's because my dad spoke to me in this way, and da-da-da-da-da, and have this whole story, which is great. It's great that you're, finding the root causes of where this comes from in yourself. But in terms of the NVC kind of, 4 steps getting to the point thing here, what you really want to know is your bottom line. Like, why does this bother you? It's because you want consideration, security, and acceptance. Like for this person, that's the situation. So I really hope those examples helped. And as I said, don't expect your first answers, your kind of automatic answers, to necessarily be your deepest truth. And don't expect to automatically be able to use this kind of system really fluidly. I found that it would take a lot of time for me to go through those 4 steps in a way where I was using the language that felt really true, and not, going into kind of judgments and victim roles and all those kind of things. Just clear, kind of clean language about the situation. And also what I found was I would go into this, as I said, I would maybe get like a kind of superficial answer, and then I would go into that more and go into it and go into it and go into it until I found like I got to the root of what was really going on for me, what it is that I really, really want. And I was trying to think how to explain what that feels like to me. And to me, it feels like if I've been away on like a really long trip and I come home, you know that feeling where it's like, that's it, came home, this is my place. That's something similar for me to the feeling when I hit the absolute truth of what it is that I want. There's that feeling of, yeah, that's it, the recognition. So I really hope this helps. Let me know if, you have any examples that you might want me to kind of go through. Maybe I could do some other videos like that, trying to use NVC language. I would really recommend checking out cnvc.org, and especially those feelings and needs lists. Yeah, let me know if you try this out for yourself, the kind of self-inquiry NVC, and if you have some great results. I found it to be really powerful.